Hey listeners, last year was our 15th year of the best in food storytelling. As we head into 2025, we're kicking off a contest in collaboration with the podcast series Feast and Harmony and Sixth Man, where you have the opportunity to win a 4-night cruise for 2 on Chefs Making Waves, a food, wine, and spirits festival at sea. When you donate to HRN, you'll be entered for the chance to win a porthole cabin for 2 on Chefs Making Waves, sailing May 5th through 9th, 2025, from Miami to Cozumel, Mexico on Norwegian Gem. You'll also support another year of great food storytelling with a portion of your donation going toward disaster relief for the food and beverage communities within Western North Carolina and Southern California. This cruise is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for culinary adventurers, featuring top celebrity chefs including Jonathan Waxman, Antonio Lafaso, Robert Irvine, and many, many more. There's a myriad of experiences such as restaurant takeovers, live food and mixology demos, themed parties, and more. To enter your chance to win, please visit heritageradionetwork.org/cruise. Terms and conditions apply. You must be 21 or over to enter. That's heritageradionetwork.org/cruise.
This episode is brought to you by Wisconsin Cheese. There's a reason when you think of Wisconsin, you think cheese. Cheese is a huge part of Wisconsin's history and future. In Wisconsin, the state of cheese, the tradition of cheese-making excellence began 180 years ago, before Wisconsin was recognized as a state. Immigrants traveled to settle in this lush green hills of Wisconsin, bringing their cheese-making traditions with them. These storied skills, combined with the freshest milk available, created a cheese-making culture that is uniquely Wisconsin. Wisconsin's 1,200 cheesemakers, many of whom are third and fourth generation, continue to pass on old world traditions while adopting modern innovations in cheese-making craftsmanship. Find your next favorite cheese at wisconsincheese.com.
Hey everyone, Greg Benson here, and if you're a regular listener of The Speakeasy, you probably know by now that I've been working to bring 100% pure, actually good-tasting agave nectar to the United States for a minute. But I wanted to give you a bit of an update. I actually got to travel to the farm where these amazing plants have been growing for decades, and it was just a genuinely moving experience. I got to see these agave in their natural habitat and see what it means to Rogelio, the farmer, to be able to care for the descendants of the same agave that his grandfather was growing almost a full century ago. That's why I'm proud to announce Quixote Imports, a new venture that's dedicated to preserving these agave and, yes, still bringing in the same fantastic, earthy, lightly fruity agave nectar that's going to make you wonder why you've been wasting your time with the crap at the grocery store. Plus, our fans here at the Speakeasy can get free shipping at checkout with promo code SPEAKEASY, so don't wait. Head on over to QuixoteImports.com and see what agave nectar is actually supposed to taste like, and use promo code SPEAKEASY for free shipping. Salud.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network.
So you don't shun the devil with your rock and roll load. Knows that country music's gonna save your soul. The devil runs his groove in them rhythm and blues that send. It's gonna get you sun in the end.
Welcome back to the Speakeasy. I'm Sother Teague, and today I'm here in Chicago at Juke Sing, where AJ and I are going to do some cool Amore Margot stuff later this evening. But right now we decided to record an episode of the Speakeasy. And next to me, I've got Jeremy Barrett, who owns Lemon, which is here in West Town. It's a cocktail bar and music venue. Judy Velez, who is from Diageo Hospitality, and my good friend and friend of the show, Josh Davis from Brown and Balance, which of course celebrates black and brown bartenders and hospitality professionals at large. And today I think we want to really dig in and talk a little bit about like what it means to be a community builder, right? And so we've got kind of 3 different faces on this panel from 3 different aspects of the business to approach it from those perspectives, right? So, Josh, I think you probably have the most experience at the table with building community. So talk to me about a little bit about how you and Brown and Balanced, and you've been on the show before, but you can remind the listener about Brown and Balanced, but how you and Brown and Balanced are really striving to foster community.
I mean, real, to be honest, it's happened on accident. I've been in this industry now, 2025 will make 20 years of me being in the hospitality industry. I started from security to bar back and to bartender, working my way up through the ranks. And as I was growing, I didn't see enough people that looked like me on the main stage. Like, there's a bunch of amazing mentors and people in this industry of all walks and shades. But when you walk in the room, it's always good to see somebody that looks like you, that feels like you, that you can have that commonality. And when we were going to Tales and Manhattan Cocktail Classic back in the day and all these other events, it just wasn't enough of a representation of what I saw for me that looks like me. So I said, hey, I'm going to just put something out there and let's see what happens. I'm going to host an event where it's black DJs, black chefs, black bartenders, all the way to the girl who does the graphics for the event. But everything is just, we're going to black out the entire event, and we're going to turn it into that old school lounge from the south side of Chicago that I grew up with my uncles and my father and all the guys in the neighborhood owning those. And we're going to bring that culture into the bar culture because that's still an important piece. Like, we always have the speakeasies and we have the history of Prohibition and all that, but those juke joints, those little lounge bars that were in the black neighborhoods were so important to the entire industry. Let me transform a place like Juke Sing, like we're here now, into that and foster that community with those up-and-coming new bartenders. You know, there's more than just myself and like Tiffany Barrier, because we always get booked for stuff. But there's a whole generation of bartenders that look at us the way, no respect due, I look at you and I look at the Ian Burrells and I look at the Collins and all those guys. There are people that look at us the same way. So let me have something for them to showcase their talents to be able to move the culture forward.
Well, I would take you to task a little bit. You said this all started on accident. Josh, this sounds like you're a very intentional man.
Yes and no. Yes and no, man. I just got fed up of just not seeing enough of me when I would go out. And when we're traveling these places, everybody goes to the same 5 or 6 bars. We go to New York, everybody comes to see you, everybody goes to Dare Rabbit. But it's bartenders in Harlem at 67 Orange Street when they were still open. It's bartenders at the Honeywell when they, you know, with Marcio and the guys over there, that they just need an opportunity. So it literally was just, I was on the road with Lush Life, and I woke up in the middle of the night and had this crazy ass idea. And now it's 8 years later, I feel like it's the best party in the industry overall.
Yeah, so talk a little bit about that. What are the activations that you do, and how do you use the light that you now have to shine it on the people you think need to be more visible?
I partner with good people like my good friend Judy over here in Chicago, and I just reach out to different brand partners that I know, and I just say, hey, look, we do it at the big events, at the Tales and things like that. Can't run them up before the Cocktail Week, but I like the standalone events like Judy and I have done for the last 3 years, a Black History Month event every year at the same place, every year utilizing the per brands and utilizing people like that. So it honestly just, it's really just using my relationships to say, hey guys, look, there's a need for this. Do you want to partner with it? You know, at first, nobody wanted to. Like I broke even in year 6 of Round and Balance.
I mean, not the worst record, to be honest.
Yeah, not at all. But we were doing everything literally out of pocket, just trying to get it out there. Because a lot of brands at the time, they didn't quote unquote a black event, had never been done before.
Sure.
So a lot of people didn't really know how to approach it, which I understand. You know, now I do. Then I was pissed off, but I understand now. But now that they see, like, hey, it's more than just a party. You know, we're really moving into a lifestyle kind of a brand. We got clothes, we're mentoring, we're partnering up with other Turning Tables, Chocolate City's Best. You know, there's other conglomerates all over the country, and we're all partnering together because we all know each other. So we're just trying to, you know, keep pushing forward.
Sure, your focus in the beginning was specifically bartenders, but now you're telling me that you're widening that scope and focusing on just black people in hospitality in general.
Yes. Last time I was on with you guys, it was an idea, just to be transparent, my older brother's fighting the case right now. He's been locked up for 26 years. And some new evidence came out, and we're fighting this case, trying to get him home in the next few years. Hopefully it works out. But in our conversations, if he comes home, like, he don't even know what a cell phone is. Like, he went to jail in 1998. Right. So social media, cell phone, all this is all brand new to him. I want him to just come work with me and let me show you what I do. And this is the one industry which I love. The thing about our industry is you can have a past, you can have a history, but you can make yourself into whatever you want to be in this game. You can bartend, you can bar back, you can own a bar, you can do podcasts, you can host events, you can do anything. So we're moving away from just bartenders. Top of the year, I'm going to start a nonprofit leg of Brown and Balance to help out the guys that's coming home from jail. So they need somewhere to be, and then also start attacking the young guys that's coming out of juvenile detention. So to catch them before they end up making a mistake and going to big boy jail forever. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's the next move. It's coming really, really soon. I'm really excited about that.
That's great, and it's great that you get to work with brands that are willing to lean into that and help out. And I really do think that Brown and Balance has sort of spearheaded that aspect. As you said, maybe a few years ago, it was harder to get people to get on board because it was too new, or they maybe were too afraid, or you didn't want to. I don't understand how they would think it would be a mark on their brand to be open and more inclusive, but I do understand that exists, right?
Yeah.
We can't deny the things that exist. So you get to work with people like Judy here. Judy, working with Diageo Hospitality and in conjunction with the bars here in Chicago where you live, and maybe even beyond, and certainly with Josh, like what methods of outreach and community building does your arm of the business get into?
Sure. I think for me, the work really transcends like the brands or wherever I find myself at the time. This is work that I started doing like back in 2020 when I was still in operations. And I mean, we all know everything that was happening around that time around us. It was definitely
Something important happened in 2020?
a lot happened in 2020. So much like civil unrest, a lot of people doing a lot of like soul searching, and myself included. And, at that point I was working in hotels. I had worked my way from a greeter at a restaurant all the way to director of food and beverage. And I used that time to remind myself of what like my purpose was, to work my way up and then impact the people around me. So I really started being committed to driving community at that point, and never really looked back. So I got laid off at the end of 2020, and it was heartbreaking. And then I started working with a small brand for the very first time. Went back to hotels after that, and about 3 years ago, finally stepped into this role 100%. And I didn't want to lose everything that I had learned and all the work that I had established. I used to actually work with Josue from Juxing, and he was like, "Are you sure you're going to make this change?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I think this is the best." But I didn't want to forget about all the work that I had done. And actually, that's when I started working with Josh. I wasn't even on the brand side yet. I was running F&B at the Hotel Zachary. And everything happens for a reason, I feel like I was there the amount of time that I needed to be there, to network, to build relationships, to amplify voices that often go unheard, to give platforms to people. And all those relationships that I built while I was in the industry, I continued to foster now in this role. And honestly, like when I came onto the team, nobody was doing the things that I'm doing because no one had done it before. Or also I think like being a Latina, like I don't shy away from those sort of things. Like I believe where there's a will, there's a way. And I want to definitely like partner with people that look like me, with minorities, with people that have had the same struggles that I had growing up and even like in their career, right? And so that's kind of where I come in now in my role. I work with like 65 restaurant, bars, hotels in the Chicagoland area. And, I started building relationships with the owners, the bartenders, and I have a ton of relationships with community builders in the city and event producers, whatever. People approach me and they're like, "Hey, like, what do you want to do?" And I'm like, "Will you tell me what you want to do?" And like, we have creative workshops and go back and forth. It's a work that I'm committed to. And I don't think a lot of people realize that like the work takes work, and
the reward for hard work is more work.
but that's okay. I mean, like I was saying earlier, I'm a mom of 2. I have 3 puppies, but I'm committed to the work. And I think it definitely shows in everything that I do.
Do you find support from the company you work with to get behind these things? And then my sort of follow-up to that would be like, how, you said, they come to you, but how do they come to you? How does, obviously Josh is out there beating the streets, he's a madman. But how does someone who owns like a small venue or has just a sparkle of an idea, how do they know to come to you, or how do you get these things happening? That's what community building is the outreach, and outreach has to go in both directions, right?
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of times word of mouth, to be honest. Like, I worked with an amazing artist, Raspy Rivera, on a few things months ago. And then Diego opened up in West Town, and they were looking for someone to like support their dreams, right? Their initiatives, the things that they wanted to do with the community. And she kept saying, like, you need to call Judy, you need to connect with Judy. And sure enough, eventually, like, we connected, and I do a ton of work with them. And also, like, I have worked with so many different artists. We've done podcasts with other, producers. So it's just really like word of mouth. I mean, I think my work speaks for itself. My name is sort of my like business card.
Love it. So like you've been around enough in this market that people know that you're the person to go to when they want to do these activations. And then could you maybe describe, like, you don't have to get into the finery of it all, but like, what does a typical sort of activation look like when you're definitely trying to build community, whether that be Black or Brown like Josh is doing, or whether that's just like, let's get a neighborhood together and get them, helping one another out. I'm always the voice of like the high tide raising all boats. My bar, Amore Margot, is situated in what would be sort of like the epicenter of bars in New York City, and that's a good thing. We like being next to each other. It's good for all of us to be close like that. How does a typical thing go to generate this feeling of community that we're talking about today?
Sure. I mean, I'll give an example of like Women's History Month, because that's another thing that I'm always like all about. So I had the pleasure of meeting Lorena Vasquez, who's the master blender for Ron Zacapa. And I met her at a summit, and she's like this 4-foot tall Latina up there talking to a room full of professionals. And I went up to her right afterward, like in tears, because she reminded me so much of my mom. And I was like, I'm going to make sure you come to Chicago. And I did a whole like pitch to my manager. And honestly, like, I'm always supportive. If I have an idea and it makes sense, they're like, let's do it. So I did a pitch to him of like a 3-day sort of activation around the city in different places. And it got approved. And she came out here. She came out here from Guatemala. And the first day, it was a meet and greet with like cultural influencers at the Ritz-Carlton. The second day was a like women's history panel event. And then we brought other women in the Chicago beverage scene to be on there. It was super inspiring. And then the third event was like a spirited dinner at Icona. So those are just like ideas. And then throughout the events, like we hired a Latina photographer, Latina artist that was doing like a live portrait painting of Lorena. And just find ways to like amplify other artists and people in the community as well.
Yeah, who turns out for these events? Is it, if it's a women's history, is it mostly women? Or do you find that, again, people want to come because they want to be supportive?
People want to come because they want to be supportive. I mean, we have Zacapa fans here, Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. Well, let's turn the mic a little bit over to Jeremy Barrett. Jeremy, you have opened Lemon here in the West Town neighborhood. It's a cocktail lounge and music venue. It's 11 months old, so you're really in the very beginning of it. But you've been in the scene here for quite a while. How are you using the bar, or are you yet at such a young point in the game? How are you using the bar to sort of build community or attract, this sort of energy?
Yeah, I mean, yes, we are very new, but I think right out of the gates, our goal, at least my goal as one of the 4 partners, was definitely community and collaboration. I think Chicago has such an incredible support system. I know New York has a similar thing, and there are other markets that have, especially as I've met more people, have a connection, but I think Chicago really runs deep, and I've felt nothing but support from them. But we really wanted, especially with us just being scrappy bartenders who opened our own spot, we didn't really have a backing or any of that. It was more of like, how do we start small, especially local, and highlight our friends or friends even in smaller markets. We love bringing up people from Milwaukee, pop-ups, everything we can. But how do we start small and then grow off of that? And that's where we definitely started. Bars that hadn't opened yet were looking for a spot that just to hang out and play, because before we opened, we had hit up all of our friends, and they were
Sure.
nice enough to give us platforms to do that. And so it definitely started with some pop-ups, guest bartenderships, and then, to be honest, I didn't have a lot of experience working with brands. The bar I was at before, Billy Sunday, incredible bar, but
Love it.
wasn't, we didn't have brand names on the menu. We didn't really do much with brands. It's a small but mighty cocktail bar. So it was a lot on me and sitting down with people I respect in this industry to learn how do I work with these bigger brands. How do I find the brands like you asked that are willing to put money in the right places to host and then to see that money reaches people that need it. So we've like I said, started small, but it wasn't just. I think we're talking about the bar community a lot, but sometimes the conversation of the community within your neighborhood or the community within,
course.
within your neighborhood and within just everyone around you. Like how do you get that out there? And so we started. I mean, we're right next to this school, Esmeralda School, that focuses on children with mental illness, and so within the first few months, we had a charity event for them. I have friends that are trying to start their own thing. Our friend David and Sebastian doing Shaking the Tropics, which is all about the culture. One's from Puerto Rico, one's Dominican Republic. How do we talk about these classic cocktails that are so known, but like where does the culture come from? And we were the first. This was their first experience was at Lemon, and now they're in New York. They're going Seattle, everywhere, right? And so to give them a platform to even start and make, there were no mistakes made, but like work out the tweaks.
Sure.
Like come do it at our place. Although we're still brand new, we're just giving people a platform and having that venue side, the stage and everything gives us the opportunity when we talk to these brands or talk to our friends of look at our space. It's different than most bars or restaurants. Like let us use this space in the right way that can help enhance the conversation or help get you more people to come in and have a platform, essentially.
Yeah, right. Listen, I think one of the things that I constantly say about my bar, which is, coming up on 14 years old, it's still a work in progress, right? So if you can stay in the mindset of it's a work in progress, then you're always open to trying new things and exploring new things. You have an extra piece of bait, right? I think the bait that the other two on the panel today have is alcohol, right? We can draw people in by making them cool cocktails and things like that. You have music to throw in, and like that also is another opportunity to tie in community because music is so important to certain communities, to all communities. I think everyone has their music, right? So how are you like maybe incorporating that, or have you started yet?
Yeah, so I mean, it really goes back to kind of the origin of our concept is we, knowing that music was always going to be a part of it, not just music. We eventually want to have more theatrical. We've done everything from drag to burlesque, comedy. We just are music focused for now because we don't have the money to upgrade our stage in that sense. But we've done everything. But we started our concept, which we weren't going to do in Chicago. Enough people convinced us to stay here in the industry. A lot of people we looked up to because the pandemic, obviously, it affected everyone and every market, but the hospitality industry and the performance industry were two of the biggest. And when we were asked to keep the concept here, we were like, well, who are we, right? Imposter syndrome. But what was really cool is we started, in order to start marketing, our friend actually down the street from where our bar is now, he had a house that he had converted into an underground venue. And so for 2 years, we were hosting shows in the basement, which was essentially a venue now, or outside during the summer on the back patio, in the alleyway. And we were playing these shows. We were raising money. It was all out of pocket, just like you were saying, right? We were never making money, but it was all donation based, and it all went to paying the artists because we all had a background in art. So it was like, we will pay the artists first, we will pay ourselves second. And so over the course of 2 years, especially these summer shows, we were setting up, we're bartending off of a dishwasher, makeshift bar, paint buckets from Lowe's, making better than they should be cocktails, but highlighting some local bands, particularly up-and-coming bands, as well as some traveling bands from Milwaukee and whatnot. And all the money that we made went to them, but if there was anything left, we would usually donate that to something, or maybe reimburse ourselves for some of the product. But we built this following of non-industry people. This was all music industry. So when we opened our doors, eventually having a brick and mortar, we already had a line of community of artists that wanted to come and play on our stage. And most at least in the first 4 months, the people that played on our stage were the same bands that played in the backyard or the basement. But now their friends, they're like, hey, my friends are looking for a place to do their first gig or their second gig, right? And so now we've created this platform, especially hyper-local, of like talent that maybe just needs a spot to shine. Maybe we're not going to charge a cover that day. It's just more of like an open jam. But it gives that community, the music community, a place to play because we lost rehearsal spaces, we lost stages, we lost bars, restaurants, right? And so our concept was kind of like, let's make lemonade out of lemons, and that's by supporting people in every aspect of the community. You know.
Got it. And how are you being received? Like how's business basically? Are you finding a wide swath of different peoples are coming in to see the different things that you're promoting?
I think we had some issues in the summer without a patio, and in Chicago, if you don't have a rooftop, open windows, or a patio, you're kind of non-existent. But we really focus on programming, working with brands, and specifically events to try and get some people in. But I think one of the coolest things, which we didn't necessarily expect about the bar, was just the array of people that we have coming in. And that goes for, or shows because of the events or the music. It's widely diverse. And to be honest, the bar that was in our spot before had destroyed the neighborhood in a lot of ways. It was a 4 a.m., so we get that extra hour in Chicago on Saturdays. So it's a late night bar. It had been that way for 40 years. Benny's Blue Star was an iconic kind of dive, but then this place came in afterwards. And for a few years, the neighborhood started to suffer from it because you know what happens after a 5 a.m. bar. And so when we went to open, the community was pushing back in every sense. Not only did they not want a bar, which you would think they would want a business on their corner, they didn't want a bar, but they didn't want a venue because of just what had happened in the neighborhood.
So you had some stigma you were up against.
We had some stigma. So the point was to like, how do we convince the neighborhood that it's not going to be what it was? Like, if we're going to be supportive in that sense, we're gonna work with the community. So we had to sit down, we had to have chats, talks, town hall meetings, all that. But in the end, we have officially, earned them to our side. So much so that we have people coming in that we wouldn't expect to certain events. We host Dyke Night every once a month, working with one of our staff. It started very small and is now one of the largest communities for the LGBTQ community in Chicago, and it just keeps growing and hosts at multiple venues, but we're kind of the home. And being able to give these safe spaces to communities that don't necessarily find it as much, and you would think in Chicago there are more spots, there really aren't. And it's kind of fallen onto us, or we felt that how can we support this space if we're giving a whole night or as many nights as possible that these communities can come in and not feel any judgment or just feel safe. That's in the end, which I'm sure you know about.
Yeah, just you want to build places that make people feel comfortable, and you're doing it on sort of the panel here, the most hyper local. Right, you have a location and a venue. Judy, of course, you work with the Chicagoland area and maybe a little outside. You go all the way into Illinois as well, or just the city?
No, I do the suburbs too.
Yeah, great. And then Josh, you spread out the furthest, right?
Yeah, I go wherever.
You go where it is, right?
Wherever it's at.
You go where they tell you, or where they'll host you. So talk a little bit about that. Like how does one reach as far as you reach, Josh?
Well, one.
I mean, first of all, you're a presence.
Thank you.
You're a big dude, good looking, deep voice. Right? You sort of mesmerize people immediately.
I try.
Yeah, I think it comes natural. Charming, you're charming.
But I for me, my focus was always on black-owned bars. In this city, especially, I don't know as much in New York, but here in Chicago, there's a really big segregation in the neighborhoods. Most people don't leave their neighborhood. You know what I mean? So a lot of it's going to sound fucked up when I say this, but a lot of the advantages a bar in Westtown has, a bar on 79th Street, a bar on 79th Street just isn't going to have. It's partially just access. So I've been blessed to be able to educate myself to become, pretty damn good bartender and know what I'm doing. And I always focus on taking that back to my neighborhood, where they don't understand distributors. They don't understand going to Southern. They're going to the Midway, the wholesale suppliers, and buying alcohol. They don't understand, hey, no, it's easier if you just call Southern, get a rep, and do that. But a A lot of reps don't come to my neighborhood.
Right.
So I was like, well, I'm going to take everything I've learned, guys like you and all these travels we get to do, I'm going to bring it back to my neighborhood. Everybody doesn't get it, right? But the ones who do get it, that's why I go and I really try to pump. Hey, I got my friend Judy, she works for Diageo. Y'all sell a shit ton of Don Julio. Guess what? I'm going to have her come. I'm going to host the event. She's going to come do a spin. And we're going to show some love in that neighborhood. I can't say that. I'm not supposed to say that.
No, I'll buy some cocktails.
Okay, yeah. I didn't say it was how big the spin was, but just so they can see.
Yeah, she was gonna come and offer some support. Right?
Yeah, they're gonna come. They're gonna just show so they can see, because until I probably was 10, 12 years in this industry, I never knew what a brand ambassador was.
Right.
Every bar I worked at, I never had nobody come do a spin. When I met the infamous DDO, and everybody in this room knows DDO. And we took us out one night, and he was swiping. I said, dude, that's your money? Or he's like, no, I work for X brand, and these are my accounts. I'm like, well, what do you mean these are your accounts? I had no idea what that was.
You had to learn from
and
zero.
so I had to learn from the best, worst person possible. You know what I mean? But when I saw that, I was like, well, let me go out to the bar I work at. Y'all ever had somebody come do that? And then I started meeting more reps and more reps and more reps. I'm saying, hey, can y'all come here? Can you go there? Can you show this bar owner how to set up? Can you do that? So that's what I do now. I'm trying to be a conduit to kind of bridge that gap in our city.
Yeah, I think that's this is new news to me. I didn't even consider that there were places out there that had no idea that there was a game. I understand there are places who don't play the game, but that didn't realize there was a game to be played. So that's great to know that you're out there opening that up for both sides of the story, right?
Yeah.
Because the bar is going to benefit from that, and so is the brand. And so let's talk about that a little bit more. How does working for a brand, or multiple brands, right? You have a portfolio basically. How do you do what Josh does? How do you get into a place that has no idea that they can work with you, not just sort of alongside you or even for you in a weird way?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of education, right? It's helpful that there's multiple brands. So if someone doesn't necessarily want to talk about vodka, it's like, great. So what works? Do you want to talk about bourbon? Do you want to talk about mezcal? Do you want to talk about tequila? So I really go in and see what opportunities there are and sort of what makes most sense for the spot, and present it as like, hey, this is a win-win, for everyone, and go from there. Like we focus a lot on educating like bartenders and owners, and that from there, obviously people are going to now have brand stories to share, and sort of make more personal experience with the guests that sit at the bar or the guests that come in to dine with them. When I worked in, hotels, it was all about like that connection that you made with the diner or the customer. And so you're basically like giving the industry members an arsenal and resources to have that they could just like pull out.
Well, right. I'd love to talk just a little bit more about what those resources are, because I think that, to Josh's point, a lot of folks didn't even realize there was a game to be played, much less how the game works. And it's more than just the juice, right? You, as a brand as large as the portfolio you work for, there are other optics that can be employed. Like you can offer assistance on menu printing, or you can offer assistance on signage or other things, right? And so, like, how does that trickle down to the bars? Like, what sort of, I would assume it's joy when it comes across their face when they realize that there are resources there that are beyond their own four walls, Jeremy here is operating a place that's been open for 11 months, and I'm certain, and knowing that what I went through when I had my first place, that you're trying to do everything yourself. And then when you realize, man, someone will help me print the menus, that's something off my plate, right? So, like, how does that information get out there? Because I think that everybody's first blush is, oh, they're going to help me with negotiating a price on the product, or they're going to help me get the best deal or case breaks or whatever. That's all just the juice. Let's talk about other opportunities.
So I always present myself as like a consultant, an advisor, and I let the owners know that I'm here to help take the legwork off. So if you need an asset designed for an event, like, I'm here. If you need a menu designed, I'm here. If you need me to print the menus and deliver them to you, that's that's me. Like literally, like that's what I get paid to do. So anything that'll help make your life easier, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah, I love it, and I think that that's a look behind the curtain that I don't think a lot of maybe younger to the business bartenders know exists.
I have no idea.
You know, and this is not just one brand and one portfolio. This is kind of, you know, everybody has this to some degree, and especially the bigger kids, and they're willing to help you. Of course, there's a return. They want your business, but there's nothing unethical about it as long as you go into it with your eyes wide open and you know what you're getting into. I mean, I'm getting a sense of a little bit of surprise from Jeremy. Were you aware that these assets were at your
No. And I've been in this industry 17 plus years since my dad told me to get a job. You know, like I said, I didn't have experience working with brands, so thus in turn I didn't have the printing of the menus, the idea. We didn't even know how to negotiate with. You know, I just found out recently that Chicago's kind of pay to play city in a lot of ways. And we
don't talk about that much because that's kind of true in every city.
Okay,
But
gotcha.
gotcha.
Yeah, hush, hush.
We manipulate the numbers to look for
But without talking about that, I can talk about we had no idea, absolutely no idea, especially myself and my co-beverage director. We just didn't have experience with that in the places we worked, or we weren't in the ownership position. And so when we found out, like, oh, you can come, you're going to help pay for the DJ, or cover the cost of the band, or print menus, so on and so forth, right? There are ways getting around that, but there's so much support.
Oftentimes they'll like give you pins for the bar. Like,
Yeah,
you don't have to
yeah.
go buy pins
Swag,
anymore.
I love swag,
You,
yeah.
you know, you need some sort of like apparatus book to
Mhm.
put your bill in for your guests. They'll supply those sometimes. Like there's so many things
Yeah.
that are kind of like sneakily at your disposal that, you know, they can help you make your business cards. Like they can really be an asset. And I think Judy said it really well. In a certain sense, you're a consultant for all of your accounts. So that's another employee that you don't necessarily quote unquote pay, right? They're not on your salary. They're being paid to do this already, and they're happy and willing to do it. I think the breakdown for me sometimes comes in where you say, I don't know what they can do, and they can do so much, it's hard for them to say, well, I can do this, but I can also do this and this and this. So oftentimes it's a matter of literally just going to them and being like, I think I want new business cards, but I don't know what to do. And they'll be like, let me help you, right?
Yeah.
If they can't. If they can't, then they say that too. But like, you know, you can say, I want business cards and sales books and pens, and I'd love for you to design them and have them ready for me that have my logo and your logo in some way, and that way it's ROI for everyone, and it's a great deal, right?
Yeah, we'll talk. Make sure it's all compliant.
But again, that's what the person in Judy's position, they know that. And they're aware of all those rules and regulations and literally laws in most states that govern this stuff, so that no one's doing anything wrong, but that everyone's getting what they should from the situation, right? And that in turn, I think, not to whip the topic here, that in turn builds community. So now I'm hopeful, Jeremy, to be honest, now that this conversation that you're literally involved in has opened your eyes a little, you'll spread that news to your friends who own or operate bars or think about running and operating bars. Like, this is an asset that you can kind of put into your, budget and say, well, it's a thing I can get that I don't have to pay for, and it can help my business in lots of small and large ways.
Yeah, I mean, I was not big into podcasts until the last few years. I was audiobooks and whatnot. And
Yeah, podcasting did it.
well, I'm glad it's not, because as I was learning to work with these brands, and just now are we starting to understand the game, or how to work with properly. But all of the meanwhile, I've been listening to your podcast, Bartender Live, other podcasts, which I wasn't super nerdy into, like, but it's your forums like this that taught someone like me, even though I've been in this forever, that I didn't know. And hearing these conversations that weren't talked about, at least when I was coming up as a baby bartender, now I'm hearing them. And even though these are episodes recorded years and years ago,
Sure.
I'm
The
learning
information is still valid,
so much at the same time, just learning firsthand how to do it. So coinciding with knowledge from everyone else's space with what I'm just learning, because every market's different, every spot's different. It's been really cool to kind of navigate that through the help of meetings like this.
Yeah, well, on my show, The Speakeasy, I have my two co-hosts, Damon, Boelte, and Greg Benson, and we all, just like, every bar team has its different players that have different strengths. I think my strength has always been kind of, I'm more interested in the business side, and I'm more interested in exactly what we're talking about here today, the community side, and how to build both those things at the same time. So like this show for me has been a great opportunity to get some voices heard, but also to get some information out to people who, again, I'm going to use you as the example, who didn't even realize the things that were brought up in this conversation could help your business. And I think that's great. Let's get that news out there, and help businesses, especially young businesses, be stronger and better, and so that they'll survive. I think we have a pretty low, rather pretty high mortality rate, right? With businesses in our field of endeavor die off pretty quickly. I'd like to see that kind of come to an end and have places last longer. Josh, you have any plans of a brick and mortar of your own, or what's coming up next for Brown and Balanced?
I have been a partner in bars. I don't ever want to do that again.
All right.
I'm okay. I'm okay with just being a mercenary and just going in, consulting. Anybody out here, right down the street from here, Wax Vinyl Bar. Just opened up in June. Black-owned bar, Lee Farmer, one of the legendary DJs in Chicago. I consulted, did their cocktail menu. Jorge and the guys been down there to come see us a couple of times, so we're building that. But I'm totally fine with just being a mercenary.
Yeah, right. Have Shaker will travel.
Yeah, I can do it. Brown and Balance is moving. The cocktail book is 75% done.
Okay.
We're going to chronicle every Brown and Balance event from the first back in Dallas to now, all the cocktails, all the bartenders. We had about 75 bartenders that didn't know anything about the national scene, who now are Brown and Balance bartenders. We're moving on, doing amazing things. We get all their cocktails out. The podcast is recording.
Hold, please. Let's stop there for a second. The book, what's the estimated delivery time on the book?
Second quarter next year.
Okay.
Second quarter 25.
That's going to be called the Brown and Balance.
The Brown and Balance cocktail book.
All right, so I'll make a promise to you right now on the air that you'll be back on the show to talk about your book when it comes out.
Done. We'll go through it. Maybe maybe we do the show live in New York.
Yeah.
And make some cocktails from the book while we're doing it. How about that? Let's do that.
We'll do that
That's one. Cloud podcast coming soon. You inspire me.
All right.
After you had me on last year,
Yes.
so I'm recording live episodes now.
Okay.
And it's not just bartenders, it's black creatives. Anybody that knows who George Daniels is in Chicago, I got George Daniels coming up soon. He's a legendary figure here in the city in the music scene.
All right.
He's coming up, so it won't be just bartenders. I want to really show the entire collective of just black creatives all over the place, man. So we got it coming. I might have you on. I mean, you're not a black creative, but I mean, I still might have you on.
I'll happily come on. A panel. I'll come on.
Yeah, but that's it right now. Those are two things that are pressing that I'm working on. It's holiday season, so since we got Lemon and Juxing here, and me and Judy already teamed up, so maybe we can do some Brown and Balance holiday parties.
Yes, please.
You know what I mean? At some point, through the next couple of months, we sit down and put that together. Got you.
Tell me the day.
That's it. We'll make it happen. Yeah, we'll make it happen.
And people can find you pretty easily on the internet. It's Brown and Balanced on Instagram,
Yeah,
right?
Brown and Balance is the Instagram. Mr. Mixologist is my personal. Stay out the DMs with foolishness because my girlfriend doesn't play like that. But yeah, you can find me that way.
That is Josh Davis.
Websites coming soon. Podcast websites coming soon. All that's under construction. So top of the year is going to be really big.
Excellent. Really excited for you.
Thank you.
Judy, what do you got that's coming up soon, or what final words would you like to say to the listener?
Yeah, I mean, much of the same stuff. I stay busy. There's never a dull moment over here. Like Josh mentioned, I'll start working on planning something for Black History Month coming up in February, followed by Women's History Month. And then we have Juneteenth after that, I think, Cinco de Mayo, like all the good stuff. Everything I'm always on top of, planning like 3 months in advance. And I think what I really want to leave people with is that, like, if you want to do the work, you can. And it's important to have, like, a sense of purpose, right? You're going to need that in order to do the work. You have to be, like, intentional with a lot of the things that you do. And you just have to be authentic because, like, if it's fake, it's not going to work. And when it's authentic, it's genuine, and it's something that, like, you can become known for. And if you want to know more, hit me up. I'm here.
Yeah, where can we find you?
Yeah.
You want to plug real fast?
Yeah, so my personal one is Señora Velez, Velez, and my work one is La Lady Drinks.
La Lady Drinks. All right, we'll reach out to that one the most, I think. We don't want to bother your personal one unless we want to see your puppies. Jeremy, what you got to say to the listener to wrap up the episode?
I would just say, for those of you who are interested in potentially opening your own spot, obviously there's a lot that goes along with it, but just like this podcast and what we're talking about, like, lean on your community, because we've been helped every aspect of it years before, a year into it, and it's like other people doing what we're doing and establishing that community. And it's not just local. Like, I've met just recently people in international and in other markets that have been so supportive, and they're the ones spreading the gospel in other places that maybe we can't reach if we haven't done a pop-up there. But like, just lean on your friends and your community and mentors, because we wouldn't have gotten where I am without it. So.
Yeah, that's great. And where can we find you in Lemon?
Lemon_Chicago is our Instagram, and I'm Swizzle_me_this, Swizzle me this. You can check it out, and I'll slide in my DMs if you want.
When are you open?
We're open every day except for Sundays. Come see some live music, some great cocktails, drinking absinthe, he says. Do it.
I love it. All right, guys, well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of the Speakeasy. Tune into Heritage Radio Network for plenty more shows just like this one. Don't forget to click the beating heart on the website to donate to keep us all on the air. Thanks so much, everybody. Cheers.
Cheers.
So you don't shun the devil with your right.
The Speakeasy is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food and drink radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.